have that kind of chilly weather when you relax. So we look forward to extending the chilled atmosphere that people woke up in this morning to the other parts of Abuja. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Today. I'm Chamberlain. So
good morning, I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. It's always very important to add that at the moment part of Abuja's weather. Because you might just come in at noon and say, but Chamberlain said it was 18 degrees. I can't put 18 degrees here. Well, it's just how it is. I don't know how it is in Lagos. Is it cool this morning, Ayo?
Well, I can tell you for free that the sky does look misty, but cloudy, maybe not so much. This is the Mobolaji Johnson train station in Lagos at Ebutemeta to be precise. Well, you know, it's weather, right? And in this day and age of climate change, you never really know where it can just change. I mean, you're getting ready. The weather is looking in one way, and by the time you get into your vehicle or get on the road, it's totally different. But now, check out this beauty. I know that, I mean, something similar is coming up in Abuja. But today, good morning and welcome. This is Sunrise Daily. It's the 19th day in the month of January. I'm Ayo Makinde.
So today it will be at least one of the big steps. Nasarawa State, it will be their turn at the Supreme Court this morning because the Supreme Court will be hearing the governorship election dispute between the incumbent governor Abdullahi Sule of the APC and David Ombugadu of the SDP or PDP. Okay, so both of them will be there. Remember, it's a pretty interesting one here. Mr. Ombugadu did clinch it at the tribunal, and then the governor pulled it back at the Court of Appeal. So now they are in the Supreme Court. So probably they just might be waiting with bated breath, those in both camps. So they will be wondering, where will the pendulum swing? So
I can tell you.
You what?
Yes, you heard right. I can tell you. It's going to be reserved judgment today.
Oh, come on. That's not what I mean by where will the pendulum swing. Oh, dear.
I can tell. Let's think a better day. Reserved judgment today.
Because if not, now, yes, they reserve the judgment and then fix the date.
Of course.
Are we going to ask you then after that, after
no,
the reserve judgment?
Well, after that, no. I think that it will be just where their lordships please. But that's what we've been seeing at the Supreme Court. They will just take their sweet time. You know, they will hear the final cases. There's a word they use for it now. When the lawyers make their final briefs today, and then usually, you know, what we'll get. I think the Supreme Court justices took lessons in suspense, in the game of suspense, because they certainly know how to keep, you know, the political stakeholders in that land of suspense. And then they choose a day, and then they deliver all of the judgments in all of those cases. That's precisely what we saw just last week when we had cases from Monday to Friday. A lot of the cases were reserved, and then on Friday, we saw that, you know, judgment was delivered one after the other, very swiftly. That's what their lordships did. So maybe it's the same thing we're saying for this week, because we saw what happened with River State yesterday, today Nasarawa State. So maybe we can take a quick, and who knows, I might just be wrong. Maybe they might just deliver judgment today. You never can tell. But if we're to follow the trend of what we saw last week, the chances are very high that their lordships might reserve judgment till a later date.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at the moment, both parties, at least as at the last time we checked, they expect the same thing, to reserve judgment. So if they hear and deliver judgment today, wow, some of them will be shocked, actually. But of course, we also know some of the highlights last week was Kano and Plateau. So it will ever be a major talking point. It's in the history books now, at least the presidents. So they'll talk about it as much as they can in that sector. For the judiciary, students of law, they will always cite all of those things. And sometimes I wonder if those judges or justices always, if that is chief amongst consideration, how will their names go down in annals of history? if they happen to be on the wrong side? How about how they're perceived? Well, not assuming anything, but of course you have heard how some people just wonder. They want for plateau, for instance. How did they arrive at that?
Interestingly, the justices, in terms of how they delivered their judgment, because I think one of the things that really stood out for lawyers was also the language of the judgment. And it seemed like they were intent on, pushing home the fact that you could not disobey a court order or a judgment of court. That's for the Court of Appeal, and that's what they based their judgment on, that there had been a court order which seemed to have been violated. And they are saying, if you take this, if you can cry all you want. I think I heard language like that. You can cry all you want, but if you disobey a court order, this is what the outcome will be. So I don't know. I think that, it will be something for law students to argue. I mean, even among law scholars, to continue to look at. Were the Court of Appeal justices trying to make a point with, court judgments, or were they really misled? Were they genuinely misled? Were they influenced? Well, was that an external influence? I think this is something that will continue to, bog the minds of legal scholars. But I think the Supreme Court has also said it all at ease, upholding the judgment of the election of the initial election petition tribunal. It'll be very interesting to see, just how that debate continues to pan out. But usually there'll be no debate when the Supreme Court has given its judgment. But the reason why it'll be interesting, though, Jimmy, even though, the Supreme Court is law, is that somehow these cases always rear their heads again. You would think that when the Supreme Court has ruled on something, it should be that when a matter comes up, even among citizens, they should be able to look at it and say, no, from what we know, this is how the Supreme Court ruled last time. Some people say, let's go and test it again. Maybe facts, maybe things, or that surrounding matters might have changed in such a way that, the law might change again. You never can tell. But I think that it's certainly something that will continue to be interesting.
But, I also think that justice is not supposed to be like a mystery to the people. Because if they say, justice must not just be done, but it must be seen to happen. It means they expect that connection on the part of the judiciary and the people. So, and then they say, if it's the last hope of the common man, they should be able to connect and relate with those judgments.
So, Chamberlain, also, because what I also find very interesting is the fact that a lot of the cases we have in court today, we're not contesting the elections themselves. Which is where the problem lies. I mean, if the people have already voted a certain way and that is their choice, regardless of whatever loopholes or whatever commas or K-legs the candidates fielded by those parties had, that's where the problem lies. If the people have already, chosen it, I think that maybe the Supreme Court might need to make a very firm statement on that, as they have done, because it would seem that somehow all of the candidates who emerged, who were declared by INEC, are the ones that have kept their seats so far, maintaining very strongly the choice of the people. But assuming there were a defect, for instance, as we saw in Bielsa, where one of them did not have a proper certificate or something to that effect, and other candidates point that out, in the court, and they lose their seat as a result of that. We also saw that in Zamfara some years ago, where the party lost all of its seats as a result of something that was defective, not because the people didn't vote for them or for what INEC declared at the minimum. It is come see, come sa, really. It is come see. It's very, very tricky. But I think that the lordships have made a very strong point in defense of democracy and the people's choice.
Ayo.
I'm actually very excited about what Malkwe just said now, particularly in the line of what the politicians themselves do in this whole conversation that we are having. Because, I mean, look at it. Just as you said, Malkwe, some will cite a case that already has a precedence and say, okay, maybe something will change. Exactly what's going to change? How does that help our democracy, really? How does that help to strengthen the institutions of governance that we have on our hands? Two things that I think are missing. Number one, political communication. No, first of all, political education. Because You know, we often talk about the qualification of the politicians who are supposed to get into various levels of offices, and guess what? The people that they are representing have way higher degrees, professors, doctors, master's degree holders, and what does the Constitution require for some of these people to get into office? We all know the answer to that question. So how much of that education do we have, political education do we have, with the capacity for people to actually lead the nation? Yes, they always have people to work with, but do they really listen to them? Are there more political exigencies? The second thing I think is political communication. Exactly how does it work for some of these, leaders that we have to really do what is needful? Above all, Chamberlain and Maokwe, is the fact of one thing that we have seen, that election cases are in a class by themselves. And that message needs to be underscored very, very strongly. For every politician, for every young person who is going to come into this space and say, we're interested in getting into this space. Election matters in courts are in a class by themselves. What's that English word that they use again, Jay? Is it Latin that they used? So that information needs to get to the heads of the people who are interested, and the politicians, and the lawyers know. So for someone, for instance, a lawmaker, to spend 500 million naira defending one case, indeed, I'll agree. Election cases are in a class by themselves, financially speaking. Back to you, Chamberlain.
So financially speaking, so what happens to sui generis then? So maybe that's not the meaning, because if you say financially speaking, okay, so, I mean, they should just look back and see how those judgments were received by the people. I think that will tell them the message. That's quite telling. So hopefully, Nasarawa, Rivers, we will see. All right, let's take you through some of the dailies this morning, and we'll start with Vanguard newspaper. Insecurity. Gunmen run riots in Abuja, Enugu, Ekiti, Katsina, 3 others. Bandits kill 3, abduct 50 in Zamfara. Kidnappers kill 3 of 10 victims in Abuja. Raise ransom to 700 million naira. You know, if we just take a look at this from a distance, it appears as though, are these things orchestrated? I guess we'll talk about that much later. And then, cost of business to remain high as inflation hits 28.9%. Vanguard.
Leadership has this on the front page. Kidnapping crisis. FCT residents blame security agencies. Kidnappers kill 3 more victims. Raise ransom to 700 million naira. 5 sisters yet to regain freedom. Rescue victims. Remi Tinubu tells police. Retired Army General chides leaders. So you find details right there on page 4 of the paper. You also see this other one. Detained vessel, 23 arrested. Tinubu orders probe, hail Santita. That is also on the front page of leadership newspapers. Ayo.
Daily Independence is what I have, and I think it's speaking to the consequences of the issues you have raised on the front pages of other papers. Worsening poverty, hunger, fueling insecurity in Nigeria. That's ascribed to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, and has just one rider asks authorities to address situation to regain trust of citizens. Tall order? Well, it's a job you signed for. That's Daily Independence lead story today.
Guardian, 2024 oil production. FG to meet 650 million barrels target over crude-backed loans. That's what you see right here this morning. And then they also focus on Nigeria's inflation ends 2023 at 28.9% as Naira anxiety worsens outlook.
Well, Daily Trust has this 438 million naira contract. Interior Minister faces Code of Conduct Bureau today. So just in case you're wondering what CCB is, that's the Code of Conduct Bureau. They also have this 5 bodies recovered. Scores missing as boats carrying 100 capsizes in Niger State. We'll leave it there for Daily Trust.
Nigerian Observer this morning. This is leading with something that happened yesterday. The Nigerian Observer. Armed Forces Remembrance Day. Tinubu, governors, Nigerians celebrate fallen heroes. as Obaseki re-echoes call for nations restructuring. That line in the national anthem must have its presence in our minds at all times. The labors of our heroes past shall never be in vain. That's the latest story of the Nigerian Observer today.
Look at Tribune. Adelabu unfolds roadmap for power sector. Says FG spent 700 billion naira on electricity subsidy in 2023.
This Nigeria says, don't worry about Japa. We'll train more, says Tinubu. With me, there's hope. President promises to prioritize education, healthcare. But when he says with me, there's hope, I don't think that he means hope, Uzodimma. But it's interesting, he said this at the second term inauguration of Governor Hope Uzodimma. So it's interesting, that play of words that this Nigeria has emphasized. But that's the lead story on the front page of this Nigeria. Don't worry about Japa, we'll train more, says Tinubu.
Certainly, many people want to listen to that voice, that line, you know, in the words and with the video of the president saying it. I'm almost certain it's going to get into one of those loops again. Business Day newspaper has this one on its front page. Business Day newspaper is talking about something about exports. Nigeria's problem is low exports, not high imports. And that's very instructive, given that so many people have been talking about the paucity of our production capacity as opposed to consumption. So if we are not exporting enough, why? Well, more on that later. That's the lead of Business Day today.
Then News Direct says, again, Nigeria's inflation rises in 12th consecutive month. Yeah, that's what the paper says here today. So, I've been going through some of this as well. One of the key areas that really gets one thinking is the lead story on the front page of Nigerian Tribune, which is about the power sector. So the minister has got to speak a lot more such that people can understand what the government wants to do, what is the plan of the government, how do they key into this? Because, I mean, people have got to, you need to have an idea or know that you can plan based on certain things. It's one thing to have all of those plans, and if people don't know about those plans, they can only speculate. And no investor wants to have speculation as a basis of investment. So, yes, there are several questions about this power sector, which we all know that, don't we? Yes, they say the state governments are to get the power of attorney in discourse operation. And I think they were speaking about what they need to do if they have to revisit the agreements the country had with discourse, that it was about time to have a second look at that. So the country also needs to know what is going to happen in that regard, because we all know that if we sort this power scenario out, goodness, the economy will definitely just have a real basis kick on from there, because all of those persons who are just looking to deploy their skill set one way or the other will have something to counter. And besides, beyond the paper qualifications, which is, I mean, if you have valid ones, lovely, but skills are the things that will drive so many other things in this country to ensure that we at least do way better. Manufacturing, we need power. If we need to play a good role in after and not get the short end of the stick, we need steady power supply. So I can't say that enough.
It's certainly a major pillar of infrastructure development. Oftentimes leaders go for roads, bridges, those ones that I would like to say is easy to see and you can measure progress. But power is that intangible that we really need to get the economy moving. Let's focus on Daily Trust now, and it's a story which I've emphasized at least twice this year. Today is the 16th day of in the month of January, and already this is about the third boat mishap that we're seeing, taking lives in its wake. Look at this, 5 bodies recovered, Scores missing as boats carrying 100 capsizes in Niger. We saw a boat capsizing, I think it was in Anambra, 5 people died as a result of that. A boat capsized in River State just last week, 5 children died as a result. No, 11 people in total and 5 children were among those people. This week, we're seeing 100 people involved in a boat mishap, and we understand scores of them are missing. How many more casualties do we need to record before we take safety on our waterways very seriously? We have a whole agency for safety on the roads. Now, I'm not saying we should have an agency that scale, but there needs to be greater awareness and a little more investment in safety. If we cannot do much around security, should we also lose people to carelessness in things that can be prevented by maybe providing life vests? How difficult can that be? I'm hoping that state governments will take this, and even the federal government that is also very concerned about control of the waterways would see safety as a priority in this area. Ayo.
Thank you, Makwe, and that's anyway, questions. I'm intrigued by what is on the front page of the Daily Independent this morning about subsidy. It's on the lower right part of the Daily Independent this morning. Subsidy. For 40 years, few people cornered our Commonwealth. That's subscribed to the president. He was speaking at the second time inauguration of Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State in Owerri. The question I ask is, who are they? Where are they? We've heard, many Nigerians have heard from time to time, these are the people who are behind insecurity. These are the people who are behind stealing Nigeria's crude oil. These are the people who are fomenting trouble as a result of solid mineral deposits. Who are they? Where are they? Are they untouchable? A lot of crisis is going on right now in Abuja because of insecurity. Plateau State, God forbid that it should reoccur. And Kaduna State, I don't know if we have heard, and I just want to hope that we've had the last of it. But now we're talking about subsidy, and this has been trillions upon trillions of naira over 40 years. The few people who cornered our Commonwealth, I want to believe that the books will indicate one way or the other. Who are they? Where are they? Or is this just one of those political statements that the president has made that Nigerians are just going to have to keep guessing? Who are they? Who are the oil thieves? Where are the oil thieves? Who are the people behind the solid minerals that are being stolen in different parts of the country? Where are they? Are they untouchable? These are just questions. If we know them, can we do something about them and ensure that these things don't happen again? Can we call them out? Name and shame, as we heard before in this country? That's the Daily Independent, Chamberlain.
Well, there's just so many things. I mean, yes, valid ones too, but I think one of the dailies also was talking about how Osun State government was raising the alarm over fake agents, that's fake tax or government agents, harassing, they call it state agents. So, can you beat that? But another scenario here about the Supreme Court, where we see in the front page of leadership, Nasarawa APC PDP signed peace deal. I mean, yes, on paper, this really sounds good. There'll be the matter, as we highlighted in the opening sequence, is that it will be coming up for hearing today, and then they fix a date much later after the reserved judgment, which is likely what's going to happen. And so it's very significant because at the tribunal, the governor was declared, I beg your pardon, Mr. Mbugadu was declared winner. Then at the Court of Appeal, the governor of APC was declared winner. So now, and then over time, if you've kept tabs, there's been several back and forth between both of them, their supporters. Sometimes they're on the street saying we want our mandate back, others say no, you didn't get the mandate in the first instance. So And we also do remember that we've seen several politicians sign peace deal before they get into elections, and we always ask the implications, the essence, the effect of those deals. As much as it is important to get people to commit to it, but I'm just looking to see if this is significant or points us to the reason why I think security agents too, who knows? I mean, we don't know where the pendulum will swing, but it will be one state to watch at the end of the day. But many will just, well, even when you say justice must be done, both sides think that if it swings their way, it is justice. So I guess we'll wait and see at the end of the day. All right, so that is a look at some of the dailies here this morning. We'll be back with you and take you through our focus this morning here on Sunrise Daily.
Have you heard that you can now print glossy, high-quality, 7 pages, A2 size wall calendars for just 120,000 naira only, and A3 size for just 60,000 naira only, and it will be produced and delivered to anywhere of your choice in Nigeria within 96 hours, without even having to leave your room. Listen, this is how it works. Just open WhatsApp, send your pictures and other content, and you will receive your custom design online for your approval within 24 hours. What are you waiting for? Call our hotline for more details on 0913 156 5016. 0812-794-9323 or 0815-508-8279 or visit our social media pages. Cast Prints, digital printing at super speed.
Discover Lipton's flavorful and balanced taste. We pick fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world to give you Lipton Yellow Label's flavorful and balanced taste in every sip.
Big tech wasn't really here. What have they seen in the past 10 years, which is making all of them want to put their HQ here?
If you're a business that sees itself growing global, we'll definitely need some sort of like boost. We need to tap into those existing networks that these big tech companies do provide.
Is there a downside to big investment in Africa? Okay. It's a tricky question.
We want to be like Amazon, we want to be like Google. Like, this is not, we are not looking to sort of be just another player.
For me, big tech is something highly controversial. I see the value of it, but I also see that Africans should stop playing second fiddle to some of these organizations and have the confidence to start building our own technology.
We've seen how we are using the limited resources we have to solve real problems. They've seen indigenous tech startups achieving things that took them years to figure out.
Have you heard that you can now print glossy, high-quality, 7 pages, A2 size wall calendars for just 120,000 naira only, and A3 size for just 60,000 naira only, and it will be produced and delivered to anywhere of your choice in Nigeria within 96 hours, without even having to leave your room. Listen, this is how it works. Just open WhatsApp, send your pictures and other content, and you will receive your custom design online for your approval within 24 hours. What are you waiting for? Call our hotline for more details on 0913 156 5016. 0812-794-9323 or 0815-508-8279 or visit our social media pages. Cast Prints, digital printing at super speed.
led by a president that is putting in effort to truly take Nigeria to where it should be by building trust, starting with reimagining the use of resources in the nation, building a team that is been holding accountable to their promises. I think this is a fantastic platform. I put out a message on Twitter X yesterday, where I was talking about one of the things I'm looking to get accomplished on this journey, which truly is to find partnerships and relationships to help us build the backbone for our digital economy. And the reason for that is we understand that diversification that Nigeria is after in our economy can only happen through the application of technology. Also, the world is going through an interesting time. So many global challenges that we're part of, but including that is the opportunity that technology offers to solve so many challenges as well. And with that opportunity is the gap that exists in workforce for technology globally. With a country like Nigeria, 60% of our population under the age of 25, it means that we can actually plug that gap for the world. We can accelerate talent in our country, help raise new people who can join that technical workforce and help the world solve so many problems as well. And I think as a nation, what we need to do is ensure we're prepared and we're part of the conversations on how we govern AI. The reason why people are worried about AI is because of the enormous opportunities that we get from it to fix a lot of problems. The ability to use machines to help us do things that we've not been able to do before. The ability to put intelligence to fantastic use to solve some of our problems. I think for countries in Africa, actually more so, because we do have a lot of societal business issues that we're trying to quickly accelerate and fix. There's no better way to fix them than leveraging artificial intelligence. So I think as a nation, what we've been doing is ensuring that we get our strategy right. So we are rebuilding the AI strategy for the country, but at the same time also deepening the talent pool. If we don't have the local workforce to help us put it to good use, we'll struggle. But not only that, leveraging the Nigerian diaspora as well to ensure that we can use them to help us make gains out of AI.
Yes, as you've seen them, Mr. Togbe Fashola is right here with us in the studios. He's a special advisor to the President on Economic Affairs. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
Morning, good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, so economy, hugely significant in how people react, whether people win or lose elections, whether families can stay or not, whether people will stay in the country or leave the country. So, yes, we know that the President has promised a lot in terms of what needs to be done. But at the moment, even this morning, Daily is reporting for the 12th consecutive time, inflation galloping, as a matter of fact. So one wonders, maybe when governments have their meetings, if they look at these figures vis-a-vis their plans. So what kind of conversation goes on?
Well, you know, government is large and different platforms for conversations go on, different committees working. Government is a behemoth. But of course, certainly we take cognizance of this kind of numbers by all means. That's why we're here. That's our primary concern, to wrestle down the macro issues, which, for example, inflation, unemployment, GDP growth, that's the key concern. So again, inflation has gone up to 28.9%, 12 consecutive growth. Of course, the central bank governor has made commitments to say, listen, we're going to drive down inflation this year, 2024. But from where I sit also, I know that it's not just the case for the central bank alone, because there are other issues that are non-monetary that drive off inflation, And there's new thinking around inflation, which I probably may have said here before, when we talk about things like seller's inflation, when we talk about, what they call the price discovery process in finance, how are prices determined? What are the factors that lead to prices being determined? Of course, the price that you get at the end of the day is what tells you whether there's inflation or not. So beyond what central bank will do, which is basically to look at the monetary policy tools, interest rates and what have you, the MPR, whether they are increasing it or not, the MPC meeting hasn't held for a while now, but the thinking generally is that interest rates may go up a little bit more. But that's not enough, indeed. On the other side, what are we doing in terms of food inflation? Food inflation is 3.9% this time around. So now when you're talking about food inflation, you have to look to Ministry of Agri, you have to look to the state governors. How are they engaging with the farm settlements around them? What are the roles of wholesalers and brokers and all of those kind of people? How can we continue to engage and begin to engage with them? And there's also something very interesting called shrinkflation. Shrinkflation is this thing that we know in Nigeria, whether the size of the quantity of milk inside a milk can has reduced over time.
Yeah.
So if it has reduced over time, who's checking? What's the regulation around that? That is shrinkflation. If the quantity of beverage inside a can has reduced over time, or the food that we buy has reduced over time in a can, that's shrinkflation. So there's all sorts of things, and also there's also price-driven, profit-driven inflation. In economies abroad, they realize that the inflation drive in recent times, of course, you know that inflation is an international phenomenon. Almost everybody is shouting about inflation, even though I looked at Europe, America, Britain, they've been able to drive theirs down to the 3%, 3.9%, 3.7% region. They also were double digits a couple of months back. So that's my thinking and my proposal and what I believe is happening. What is happening in government is that we're looking at this multi-sectoral approach towards tackling inflation in 2024 and going forward.
So when you talk about how are prices determined,
yeah,
that's very significant, because people, sometimes you wake up, you get to a place today, you see it's gone up.
Exactly.
You go back there, you brought it down. The next day, the next person beside them is different. So is government looking to put a lead on that?
You can't put a lead on it, but
how do we determine that?
You're not going to be setting prices for people. We're not in a military regime. But what you must do is to engage with markets, with groups, with associations, if you like, people like Manufacturers Association, Chambers of Commerce, and of course smaller groups at that level. I kid you not, the day that the day that Nigeria deregulated the fuel prices, I was in a restaurant and there were just three of us in there, and these other two people, a man and a woman, and the man obviously didn't support the government, and he said to the woman, I told them that this government was going to do this, so when you get back to your shop, go and increase your price. When I get to my shop, I will increase my price as well. That is price discovery. That's one process of price formation, okay? So now, who's engaging at that level? Who is actually saying, okay, you know what? I mean, if I'm a seller of goods, I can get angry and increase my prices. But who is slowing me down that I don't continue to do that consistently?
So that's what I'm trying to say. When we say that, what is government looking to do? Because, I mean, we all know in different climes, even if you run a supermarket, whatever it is, you can't arbitrarily just fix. There's a template.
No. Sure. In Nigeria, there's no template.
I'm saying in other climes where there's a system.
That's where we're going.
So that's what I'm asking. What are we doing about that?
You actually hit the nail on the head. So what has happened is that, and this is what I've always said, so what we've sort of assumed that we have arrived, that we are at the level of those countries. So when you hear analysis, you hear, well, this is inflation, it's caused by this, and this. So what we have to do is to increase interest, because the textbook definition of inflation and control and all of that says that the inverse relationship between interest rates and inflation. But we need to work in Nigeria. In fact, I can tell you that sometimes it may work the opposite. If you increase interest rates and manufacturers say, look, this is cost of goods. The cost of producing has increased because interest rate on borrowing from the bank has increased. Therefore, I'm increasing my price. It's logical. Therefore, that also drives inflation. So what they've done in all those other economies, why they were able to bring down from double digit to single digits now, is because they have the systems in place. In fact, in France, Carrefour is the second largest supermarket in France. And they realized that there was shrinkflation in iced tea. The iced tea is a product of PepsiCo. And they were reducing the size but maintaining the price. So Carrefour put a signage on iced tea and say, there's shrinkflation here, and very soon we'll stop stocking this product. That put PepsiCo under a lot of pressure. Now, that doesn't sound like capitalism to you, but the truth is whether you're talking about supermarket or government officials or regulators or newscasters or me and you, all of us have a role to play in slowing down inflation. It's not just going to be a case for the central bank to increase, because again, if you keep increasing interest rates, of course, that also has its implication in terms of, slowing down growth in the economy as a whole. So it's a great stuff that you mentioned. I think that's and I think that we are also in a journey towards sophistication, towards that idea of price, price formation, how our prices arrived at. It takes a lot, and we have to continue to accumulate the data now continually, so that we can say at one point in time that we have got to where all those other guys are.
Well, I think that, whilst we can work towards putting systems in place in such a way that we can determine fair prices and have those control levers, we know that, one of the simplest, definitions of inflation is when a lot of money are chasing too few goods. Indeed. That's what causes it. So there's a lead question.
One thing that causes it. That's one part of it.
Yeah, but it's a major part of it. In our own system, some people will say maybe that's all of it, because we're not really producing.
Where's the money? Are you suggesting that we have so much money circulating?
Well, then we have a big question to ask ourselves. What are we producing? For our teeming population, where is the production? Where are the goods, or what goods are people chasing with this much money that is currently in circulation, causing this inflation? The farm produce, we know that, there's been some scarcity around food production. Farmers are no longer going to the farm as they, would normally go to as a result of insecurity. And then when you look at, our imports versus what we export. Just this morning, I think it was, what was the name of the paper now?
Business Day.
Saying that our problem is not our imports.
I totally disagree with that.
Our problem is the fact that we don't have a lot to export.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Mark, but sorry for cutting you short. It's a very emotive issue for me, just like for everybody else as well. So, okay, we can actually say that, of course, there's the part of inflation that's driven by too much money in circulation, people having money. But the truth is, when you tell that to Nigeria, they wonder what you're talking about, because people are saying they're broke. Okay, so fine. The truth is that, look at, we deregulated the downstream sector. We also made the move to unify the Naira, rates across the board. At least officially, one rate, which you can find in the NAFEM market, or used to be called I&E market. But what hasn't happened so quickly is that people should earn more. Okay, for example, we're still talking about the NLC, but the point is that according to the MBS, 88% of workers in Nigeria are working for themselves. Only 12% are working in a structured environment. And out of that 12% that are working in a structured environment, perhaps only half of them or less are working for government or are unionized. So we're talking about to union people, but what about these other guys? These so many people that are not unionized. So those people, there's no question of, okay, are they going to be able to earn more? Maybe a few banks are increasing their salaries, but the rest of the population, SMEs and so on, people are rather say, look, maybe we'll kick a few people out rather than increase salaries. So salaries must increase. So until that happens, we cannot probably make a judgment that indeed there's so much money in circulation in the hands of people chasing few goods. But of course, the definition that comes from the point of insecurity, farmers not being able to go to farms and so on, valid. And of course, I saw that one of the newspapers also carried that epidemic of kidnappings and so on, which is just coming up all of a sudden. That tells me from an intelligence point of view that this is deliberate. People are, some people are behind this thing. Therefore, of course, the NSA must get to that and ensure that we quell this immediately, so that at least. But you see, what we're saying also is that, look, inflation phenomenon is a very complex phenomenon. It's going to come from different angles. What is going on in Nigeria now? The inflation, I think we have agreed in intellectual circles that a lot of that is coming from supply side in terms of the cost of producing goods. The cost of even importation. At some point in time, we were having imported inflation, meaning that if there was inflation abroad, and we're purchasing from abroad, then also we're bringing in inflation and adding our own double jeopardy. And of course, I disagree with Business Day, and they've been pushing that rhetoric. Even yesterday, I saw a news item from the same Business Day saying that importation is not importation is our problem. And I'll just say this and then land. Look, let nobody get deceived. We export crude oil, which is our major exportation, but only 30% of our export of crude oil is ours. Whether we're producing by JV, a joint venture, or PSC, production sharing contract, or any other kind of contract, only that 30% is ours, or sometimes less, because we don't own the technology. We don't own the equipment. We have to rely on major companies to go and do that for us, and a lot of our production now happens deep sea, where the kind of technology you need to be able to drill down 2 kilometers into the earth crust, you know, the kind of technology, we don't have it. Even the barytes that we have here in Jos, in Benue State, they don't use our barite. The barite is used for drilling. You know, they import the barite from abroad. It's been a struggle to get them to use barites that are made in Nigeria. So we cannot. So let's not get confused with that. Apart from crude oil, the next biggest export we have is actually urea, fertilizer. We have about 1 billion of that. We export crude oil of about $47 billion. Then so we have to multiply that by 0.3% to know what comes to us. But on the flip side, we are also importing steel, the petroleum that we need, jet fuel, diesel and AGO and all of that on the other side, that actually cancels out the exportation of crude oil that we make. And so, of course, we're happy now that Dangote is coming up. You know, so it cancels out. But I can give you, as I'm sitting down here, 30 different items that we import in Nigeria that are in the billions. I'm telling you that we only import 1 billion, we export 1 billion of fertilizer. The next to that is cocoa at about $600 to $700 million. And then you have things like oilseed, sesame and all of that, you know, sorghum and all of that, about $600, $500 million. But on this other side, wheat alone, we import about $5 billion worth of wheat for bread and all of these things every year, okay? Pharmaceuticals, we import about $3 to $4 billion worth of pharmaceuticals. Apparel, these clothes that we wear, we import about $5 billion worth of that every year. You know, I could go on and on. So therefore, when you look at the quantum of import versus export, you know that we're in trouble. And so nobody should try and lull us to sleep. To say that, look, we have to continue to encourage export. We have to continue to encourage value addition. We cannot use graphs to try and confuse ourselves and say, okay, let's go to sleep. Let's import as much. I mean, it's madness. Not even America will do that.
So the thing is this. I mean, we can always determine what is important for us to import and what isn't. While we sift wheat from chaff, we also have to focus very much on what it is that we too are exporting. Because if we're a country that is rich in all of these minerals, which you say we're even trying to get people to use here, companies to use here, there are big questions about what we too are sending out. So if we're not sending it, and in what state we're sending them out? Because people have also talked, people have talked about the fact that we just send out crude oil the same way it is extracted from the earth. There's no value addition. You've spoken about, is it cocoa? People are wondering where are the factories for the cocoa seeds and what have you. It's still not, we're still paying lip service to it. So big questions around what it is that we are exporting. And then when you made that point about the fact that, you know, what you see is that people will ask questions about, you know, the fact that they don't have money. The inflation which we have is not too much money chasing too few goods. Now, some people will also say that maybe not in that context. The fact that the amount of money, I mean, if your salary has remained unchanged or the amount of money you earn has remained unchanged, but it can only buy fewer goods as a result of the inflation, then you now have too much money chasing those goods. Isn't that what the inflation really is about?
What counters that is that the money, if you're earning the same amount of money as you were last year, you're basically earning like maybe almost half of what you were earning in real terms.
Indeed.
So, however, what you're saying, I may agree with you to the extent that we're saying that productivity needs to increase in terms of the quantum of goods that are produced. However, that's what brings up the issue of import versus export, because most of what we need are imported. You know, I mean, look around you. You would hardly see anything that's made in Nigeria. And however, you know, it's not that nothing is being done about it. This government, that is everything we live and breathe. To say, how can we continue? How can we now start to add value to things here. It's going to be a gradual process. And no country is going to sit on their oars and expect and wait for you to come and develop. So changing that scenario is a very arduous task. However, it's something that needs to be done.
So where are we starting from is the key question. Where are we, besides all of this talk around this is what we're going to do, this is what we hope to do, the reality currently is that there is inflation. The money that people are earning is, decreasing in value. It's the same thing, is decreasing in value.
Like I said,
so where precisely is this government hoping to start from?
Like I said, we're taking a multi-sectoral approach to slowing down inflation. And of course, even if you look at, so we're not defining inflation in terms of monetary phenomenon alone. We're saying that, hey, everybody has a role. And like I said to you, that even you as newscasters have a role, because again, we live in this economy together. We cannot just sit around and watch the value of our money eroding every day. So that's to be done. But if you look at the way the economy is now being structured, the new ministries that are created, the new focus, blue economy, the new focus on solid mirrors, the new focus on gas, the new focus on steel, on all of those things, you see a new thinking coming to say, listen, these are the macro issues that we're dealing with. We need to send out more. For example, on solid mirrors, hardly does anything get exported in Nigeria. I was looking at the NAITI report the other time, and the only thing that was happening in solid mirror was kaolin, and that was Dangote cement, Bua cement. Those are the only thing that came in for Nigeria. So, but now if you look at the new push on solid mirrors, you realize that, hey, something is actually happening. So I don't think we should panic, and I don't think we should despair. I believe that a lot is happening, and the economy will actually begin to tick up this year.
All right. Ayo.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Well, let me perhaps, to also speak to the essence of those issues that my colleagues have raised with you, Dr. Fashua, from the perspective of states, because most of the time when we talk about these issues, we seem to talk about them excluding or excusing the states out of the whole dynamic. At the beginning of this program today, Malcolm talked largely about the need for collaboration between ministries, departments, and agencies, and of course, Chamberlain raised an issue of one government, I think it was Osun State government he mentioned, complaining about some government official, and I'm wondering, where the challenge of insecurity, where the challenge of collaboration is here. Now, we have heard this said over and over again. This is on the front page of one of the dailies this morning. When the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar was talking about the fact that the poverty and hunger are worsened by insecurity. And we have also, you economists have also established that there is no way any economy will grow without security. So kindly factor that in, particularly in the light of the fact that these things happen in the states. Economies, they affect people's lives at the states level. What are the thoughts that Nigerians should factor into their heads when they talk about their personal economies, the purchasing power and everything, particularly as it affects them in the different states of Nigeria where they're located?
Thank you very much, Ayo. As much as we talk about inflation, there's also the breakdown of inflation state by state, and also rural and urban. Urban inflation is about 31.3% as we speak. Rural is 27%. Many of our states are rural, but some of them also bear the biggest brunt. States like Kogi, in the last report, bore the biggest brunt of inflation. And somebody, I think it was Professor Waleke, who rationalized that maybe because Kogi is sort of a transit state, so a lot of things going on in there, and so there's a lot of activity in some parts, So the issue is, first of all, that we have to drill down to the state level. It's not just a case for the federal government to battle with alone. Whether we're talking in terms of security, but you see, I think it's even more imperative because the key driver of our inflation is food inflation. And that means that we're not getting enough food production from the state level. That also means that the management of inflation at the state level is not up to par. The governors have a role to engage with the farms, with the farming communities, with the farming associations to know what's going on. Do you know that, as we're speaking right now, there are brokers, very sophisticated brokers, that are getting engaged in the agri-sector of Nigeria, who are the bulk purchasers. Some of them are foreigners, and so what do you know their intention? If they're very organized corporate people, then the motive is profitability. And in fact, the truth is that the profit that they're making or the increases in the prices that we're looking at does not get to the hands of the farmers. So the farmers are suffering, the consumers are suffering, a few very sophisticated brokers in the middle are smiling to the bank. And therefore that means that the role is for everybody to ensure that we wrestle down inflation. So there's a role for states to play. Security and economy is very, very interlinked. Without security, the economy without adequate security, the economy cannot grow. That everybody knows that. And of course, like I said before, now that we're seeing a resurgence, and it must be said that, this security issue had tamed a bit. But maybe we cannot ignore it now. We're seeing even in some parts of Abuja and all of that. So again, I see a pattern. And if there's a pattern, it's down to the security advisor and all the people in the security apparatchik to ensure that they move against these guys and clean up the system once again. Some of these issues are politically motivated, all sorts of things going on. So to a large extent, I believe that we also can wrestle that down and tame the security issue and focus on the people. The focus continues to be on the people of Nigeria,
and
to live
that
a better
is
life,
where,
to have better value for money. But again, mind you, when the Naira was depreciated, one of the things that has happened is that we've been seeing a lot more export of cash crops to our neighboring countries. To places like Cameroon. And so I've seen some indices that show that, a lot of our people are
That's
now
ironic, Dr. Fashua, if you can hear me.
In order to get more CFA.
That's a little ironic because on the one hand,
the Naira.
My apologies. On the one hand, you told us that we are not getting enough food from our farms. On the other hand, we are hearing now that Nigerians are actually exporting food. Quite an irony, I bet you would agree. But maybe if you can just help us say this, because we have to close in no distant time from now. What are the low-hanging fruits for our economy? Again, particularly at the state levels. What are the low-hanging fruits? We know that the economists such as yourself have told us that with Dangote refineries, products coming into the market, prices, would get a little better than what we have now. We are also aware that the agriculture, just as you said, if the SAPZs come on stream, as we have heard over and over again, that maybe things will get a little better and easier at the state level. For micro, small, and medium enterprises, for businessmen, particularly at the lower rung of the ladder in the various states, for Nigerians' purchasing power, what are the low-hanging fruits? And in how distant a future should we expect the impact of these low-hanging fruits on our economy, particularly at the state levels?
Thank you. State level, yes, it's good that you're focused on states because, again, we have 36 of them, and, there's something called spatial diversification of an economy. You don't only diversify an economy product-wise, but in terms of the space, to ensure that there's stuff going on in Kano, there's stuff going on in Kaduna, in Maiduguri, there's stuff going on in Ebonyi and Co. Not just to look at just what's going on in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and so on only. So the spatial diversification of the economy is very, very important. So we need to focus more on state, and I think that also, of course, the federal government is pushing the states. We have meetings that we, do from time to time, which focuses on ensuring that the states are gingered in that direction. So a lot is happening. When I mentioned earlier about, exports going out from Nigeria as a result of the depreciation on the value of the Naira, it's not only food. If you go to the Aba area, they're pushing out a lot. The thing is this, you call it informal economy or semi-formal or whatever. Many of those guys don't actually report what they do or in real time. You need some level of intelligence to know what's going on there. In that region, there's a lot of push to the export area in terms of even finished products coming out from Aba. They make a lot of shoes, a lot of belts. If you go, in fact, you would never recognize them different from the ones that are imported from abroad. And so there's a lot of going on in that region, apart from maybe export. And you cannot stop our people from trading. If the people who are producing in Obudu, in Ikom, yams and plantain find that they can get better value by being able to export for SEFA in the neighboring Cameroon Republic, why not if not? You know, it's now the role of the state government to say, okay, what's going on here? Are we feeding our own people? What can we claw back in this regards, and so on and so forth. So again, the low-hanging fruit, I mean, is actually around agriculture. Okay, that's one area. I think that also I would personally advise that the states also look at transportation. I believe if you look at, I mean, they should begin to invest in alternative transportation, especially in the state capitals. You know, I would wish they would focus on the rail system a bit, light rail, see what you can do, invest in it, take people's attention off all of these roads so that the development of our roads too will become a little bit less cumbersome. With all the trailers on the road and all of that, destroying all the roads, we have to fix roads every year, over and over again. It's unsustainable. So there's a lot that we can do. And again, I think I probably will land by saying that the economic growth that we are looking for will not come from only the intervention of the federal government alone. It's going to be an agglomeration of the entire efforts of all of our governments, state governments, you know, put together. And we also should, one other low-hanging fruit will be that at the rural level that has been neglected, if we put a bit of attention in the rural level, you know, to ensure that those economies are better integrated, that those farm products are able to come out much more easily and less costlier, even governments can decide to assist the farmers directly. Let that be a subsidy. State governments can assist farmers directly in moving their products from the deep farms into the nearest market area, rather than leaving everything to brokers and all sorts of people.
Just as you wind down on this one, I mean, reading through, you see the president has made a lot of promise. He speaks about getting at least each geopolitical zone to have a major economic hub, several things.
Yeah.
But can you tell us about any conversation going on about, for instance, power? We know companies, manufacturers, they lament how they spend huge resources in power. Cheaper power is very, very key. And we don't seem to get that urgency, I mean, or the sense of urgency from the government that, look, these are the things that are happening. So what's going on in that regard?
Yesterday,
what can you tell us?
I just saw, I think, in one of the newspapers this morning, that the Minister for Power revealed his roadmap, a big roadmap for the sector. I think you can see that there's quite a bit of shake-ups going on. The MOFI, Minister of Finance Incorporated, has taken over the federal government assets in the discourse and GENCOs, 11 of them, and so their role is to optimize the use of those assets. I mean, even if you look at the budget, you see that now the final budget, we have, perhaps for the first time, more money, 9.995 trillion for capital projects as against 8.7 trillion for recurrent, non-debt recurrent. The rest being debt servicing at 8.2 trillion. So for the first time, you know, and so a new thinking is coming on. About a week ago, the Minister of Finance, Coordinating Minister of the Economy, issued a memo to the GOEs, government-owned enterprises, to say that, listen, you know, new TSA arrangement, you know, let's start afresh. And now they are ensuring that 100% of all the internet generated revenue of fully funded agencies make it straight into the TSA, into the CRF, Consolidated Revenue Fund, directly, you know, systemized. You know, I think that we're going to see magic. We're going to see magic in terms of much more revenue, which will now be able to use to reposition some of these places, especially within the year. Of course, you don't expect things to happen overnight, but within this year, you begin to see that the president did not make those promises for fun. It's something, you know, it actually means, and it's something we can achieve. We're not going to be resting on our oars in terms of some of these things. So I believe that, but regarding power, of course, we have also already understood that, look, federal government interventions alone will not be enough. We need to be talking of alternative power, private sector investment, PPPs, and all of that. You know, all the sources of power must make it to the table for us to get to where we need to get to.
Well, for those who think that the economic team, that there has to be a lot more traction, would you be surprised if the president rejigs his economic team?
Well, it depends on what you define as the economic team, actually, because perhaps most of a Minister of Power is part of the economic team, for example. You know, so, but what the president has promised is you don't perform, you shift. say you're going to leave us. That's what he said.
You won't be surprised if some people
absolutely there won't be any. There won't be couple you can see months. That. I mean, given even one or two of the scandals that happened recently, the swift action of the president, people are saying, hey, you know, everybody is sitting up and saying that, look, this may be a different era entirely. Remember, the president is an auditor ab initio. So the weight that auditors think, if there's a financial infraction, you're not just going to walk away. You know, I mean, people will have to pay for it. And I think that hopefully, under President Tinubu, this country will begin to march forward definitively for the first time ever.
So maybe put differently, don't be surprised if there's a ministerial reshuffle.
I didn't say that. You said it.
I didn't say you said so. I only said don't be surprised. Well, thank you for coming on, Dr. Togbe Fasho, a special advisor to the President on Economic Affairs. We're back in a moment. Stay on with us.
You're seeing on your screen right now is what we are discussing this morning, allegations of attacks and unlawful targeted demolition of houses in parts of Lekki by policemen accompanying officials of Lagos State Building Control Agency, ostensibly to enforce an evacuation of what they regard as unlawful occupiers on a land said to be allocated by the Lagos State government to a private company called Minkus Nigeria Limited in 1999. Of course, the owners claim that the said land was excised to the Maigo family and gazetted in 1994. And the owners also claim that this Minkus took all of them to court, with the matter still in court. Yet, this company with the Lagos State government is said to be carrying out extrajudicial activities to force them out. How did all of these come to be? How did they arrive at all of these? Were there notices given? Let's have conversations around this morning. By the way, we reached out to the Lagos State government, particularly the Lagos State Building Control Agency, but we're yet to get any response from them. In the meantime, we have with us, as you saw earlier, Mr. Kenneth Odidika, who is with us in the studio here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ayo. My pleasure to be here.
A good number of people would naturally want to know exactly what is going on here. Can you give us a quick background?
Thank you, Ayo. I'll try and run through quickly. For some time now, a few years ago, about 2-3 years ago, Lagos State Building Control Agency came and just started marking our walls. Fortunately, I was around and I accosted them. I said that we had to bring our title documents.
Okay, go ahead. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
That we should bring our title documents and our approved plans, building plans that were approved by government, to their office in Aja, because this is Lekki after phase 1, but before Chevron, all the way there.
Go ahead.
So we did that, and they said they were satisfied. After going through documents, they took them over a week to get back to us. After about 6 months, so that was about 2 years ago. After about 6 months, same thing happened again. And we took another set of copies. And of course, you know, building plans, how they are and all that. And I remember asking the leader, what about the ones you brought about 6 months ago? Don't you pick up, or are you doing anything with these papers? He said that, well, we should still bring them, and we took them. He came personally, Mr. Ibrahim also, came personally to tell me that there was no issue with our documents. That in fact, somebody is writing a petition that the land belongs to her. And with this, seeing that there's nothing wrong with the documents we brought concerning approval of the plan and the construction, that whoever it is that's claiming anything should go to court. Surprisingly, sometime 2023 last year, they came again. People who said they were from Lagos State Building Control Agency. By the time I came out, they had left.
You see their ID cards to say
this, I'm even going to call them because the officer is still there.
Okay.
So, by the time I came out, they had left Kenneth Odidika close, the estate, to go to another road leading to Residency Hotel. That was where I met them, with the lady leading them, whose name is Miss Florence Maye. She said that I should bring my documents to her office. I told her to give me a time. I said I would do it tomorrow because it was the afternoon. Said she gets to work about 9:10 a.m. So thinking it was still the same, what do you call it, Aja office. I went there and with some other people who also had their documents. And by this time now, this company, Minkus Nigeria Limited, owned by Mrs. Oshomo, a former Minister of Education and so, had now gone to court, sued us, initially as unknown persons. Subsequently, when we now challenged that our names were properly, the names of the owners of the land were properly put there, and we are served, and I have all the court papers here. So when I got to Aja people said, no, sorry, it's not here. We know about it, but it's from head office. So I drove again all the way to Ikeja, head office. I met with this lady, gave her the documents, and all the documents, because remember, now we're in court. So even my clients, the other owners of the land, I had their documents. I dropped all of them. And then I asked her, I think it must be one Mrs. Oshomo who's doing this. And she said, yes. I said, but we're already in court. She said, you are in court? I said, yes, we're in court. Do you have the paper? I said, I'll send them to you tomorrow morning. First thing tomorrow morning, but I told her I won't come myself. First thing the next morning, I sent my staff to go and deliver all the papers to her. And that was it. That was the end of that. Because now we're in court. We're in court to determine who owns the land or whatever land you say you own. So, last week, Friday or so, I think, sorry, the previous week, 5th, the sub-client called me that these people were breaking his wall. I said, how could that be? This person is in court, and he said, first of all, I said, which people? He said, Lagos State Building Control Agency. I said, it cannot be. We're in court, and they are aware we're in court. Anyway, to cut a long story short, Monday 8th, I drove to Ikeja again to meet, and I met with Miss Florence Baye. He said, oh, it is anything that is under high tension. I said, of course, nobody can contest that, because any such structure is illegal, definitely. So I went back, and I traveled. Thursday, as I was getting a call from the same people who called me earlier, that these people are back there. My own people were now calling me that they were in Kenneth Odineka Close. There's no high tension near us. There's no pressure near us. And they were destroying things. I actually have videos. I made a set.
One of the questions that naturally comes
So they were destroying things with police people. Yeah. Lagos State Building Control Agency. And even the bulletproof vest being worn by the police had that's Lagos State on them. About 40 armed policemen. They beat up one of my lawyers. Bundled him into a vehicle. We have it on video. I will leave with you. So you can play at the own time. Of course, some photographs here.
Okay, well, again, just to underscore that we invited the officials of the Lagos State Building Control Agency. We're yet to hear from them. Hopefully, before this program is over, they will reach out to us. Of course, you are not unaware that the Lagos State government has been carrying out some extensive demolition of illegal buildings over time. Is this in any way remotely connected?
Well, it couldn't be, because, as I said, we have submitted our building plan 4 times now to the Lagos State Building Control Agency. We know their mandate. And we are happy that we'll be happy if they can actually control, so that we won't be having these collapsed buildings. But a situation where they are used by a private company to contest, to forcibly force us out of our land, our houses. That is what we're contesting here. You can even see where one of the notices they gave, after saying demolition notice, they are saying illegally occupying land earmarked for Mayegu tourist scheme. That is the company that is the business the woman says she's doing.
What year was this?
This is 5th of January this year.
This year.
This year.
Land
Banker brought this notice.
Was that part of the original plan of the Lagos State government in the grand scheme from the 90s?
No. This is the Gazette.
Okay.
That where Lagos State government excised this land to Mayegu village or family, whatever you want to call them. The Gazette is number 29, 1st of September 1994, volume 27.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to go into the case because the case is in court. However, this is just to tell you, Lagos State gave back, excised the land to the villagers who sold to us.
When did this case begin in court?
2023. This is the first.
So the case is still in court?
It is in court.
Not
it hasn't
yet
been tried.
Determined.
It hasn't been tried.
And now action is already being taken on the same land?
Exactly.
Okay, so you have practiced law for more than 40 years.
43.
What are the implications of these?
Of course, the lawyers whose numbers even appear on one of the notices ordering us as unlawful occupiers to go and negotiate with Minkos will be dealt with according to law. This is that one. Calling us unlawful occupiers of land belonging to Minkos, that we should go and negotiate with Minkos in a case that's in court. We are not talking about the merits or the merits of their claim or our own claim. That is for the court to determine. But for the lawyers to take these steps to go and be utilizing or using connection, influence of the owner of vehicles to use government agency to come and be harassing people who are genuinely on their land. They paid government for their papers, they paid government for everything. We built our road.
It's interesting because, I mean, over time we've seen land that people actually paid for and did everything, yet we found out later that, you know, they are occupying illegal places that they shouldn't have occupied in the first place. One of the notices that we have in our possession is what is titled Lagos State Urban and Regional Planning and Development Amendment Law Contravention Notice. I don't know if you can help me understand one of the items. The identified contravention of the law consists of the following. Number one, construction without inadequate airspace.
I'm looking at it, I have it here.
What does that mean?
You should ask them, because they approve the building. You ask them.
No.
Because what I'm saying,
construction without.
This is even my own. This is my own personally. This is my own. 5A Kenneth Odedika Close is my own. So I don't understand what they mean by construction without inadequate airspace. Inadequate airspace. Again, so should I have inadequate airspace? I thought I should have adequate airspace. They say I consider it without inadequate. In effect, with adequate airspace. That's what it says. Without inadequate means with adequate.
And that's supposed to be a contravention.
I'm wondering.
Okay.
And this was not considered yesterday. And you've been coming there and you looked at all the plans. I thought their mandate was there was a plan, the design approved by government, the relevant government agency. Was the construction done in accordance with that approval?
Okay. Just again to emphasize, we have invited the officials of the Lagos State Building Control Agency. I saw that you wrote a letter to the commissioner.
I've written to the commissioner. I've written to this same building agency. I wrote to the governor, and I wrote to the attorney general, and I wrote to the commissioner of planning, physical planning.
Any response?
No response yet. So when I leave here, I'm going to go to their offices.
Okay. Now, the video we saw earlier, I don't know if we can still see that same video. Can you please talk us through it? Some people who are demolishing some things, this particular one. What is happening here?
That's my lawyer. That's Toby Owoye that are pulling. That's a lawyer. What did he do? When he saw them, he came out and said, look, because he's actually the lawyer in charge of this in my chambers, in charge of this case. So he came and said, no. He wasn't even fighting. He just said, please, this matter is in court. And one man called Engineer Peter, we saw him, who was leading them, wearing red cap, told them to arrest him, seize his phone and arrest him. He told the police. And one other policeman who was practically, I'm not a doctor to say he was on drugs, but the way his body language suggested somebody who was not normal. And it was the person who eventually grabbed Toby and carried him, lifted him, after pushing him and slapping him. And it's all on video. It's all here.
Has this particular occurrence been reported to the police?
The police that came themselves. But anyway, a petition was also written to the IG of police. And I have his acknowledgement of the delivery of the...
Well, at the end of the day, you know, the IG is still going to defer to the Commissioner of Police in Lagos.
I wrote to IG, I wrote to Commissioner of Police, Lagos.
Any response so far?
No response, but I acknowledge receiving them.
Okay. In their various offices?
Yes.
Okay.
Abuja, I have an office in Abuja.
Okay. Now, I also saw in part of the correspondence you wrote that you don't want to make any assumptions. What do you mean by that?
You know, when they came on 5th and broke, just, tiny breaking here and there, the ones that are even supposedly under the high tension thing. Some were not touched. Some buildings, some were not touched. I've been in Lagos for over 43 years. I came to law school and stayed on 1980. I never left. So, and I've lived in all parts of Lagos, even where it's supposedly Yoruba. I lived in a Yoruba house, family, I live with them. I've lived in an Hausa house. In my office, all of them are working there. I don't do Igbo, I don't do Hausa, I don't know who you are. Just do your work. I don't even do Christianity, I don't do Islam. I don't know that. Do your work. So, initially I was like, why is it only Igbo houses that are breaking? I said, well, the point is out, for this one, you are under the war, you're under high tension. I told that because I will say the way it is. I said, in fact, I support them for this because you are risking all our lives. Anyway, now, for the other ones, if you come to Kenneth or Didika Close, basically, it's practically people from the east and Bendel, Old Bendel. That's what they have there. Mostly, of course, east. And then you have some other developments going on there. This thing is not happening there. But like I said, I don't want to make assumptions. Let me just remain with the fact that the known fact is that Minkus, Mrs. Oshomo, is the person that is using the instrumentality of government because she has been minister, she has the connection, and the agency is allowing itself to be used.
Well, it's instructive that you're mentioning someone's name as owner of a particular company. Yes. You're a lawyer. The fellow is not here, and do you have proof that this is the person that is influencing all of these conversations that's making the rounds?
Well, when a Lagos state agency, government agency, a prominent one, you can't be without them, Lagos State Building Control Agency, gives you a notice that demolition, because I say that you are illegally occupying land. That's title. This is ownership of land. That's not the business. That's not the mandate of building control. It's not a mandate. This is title. That's in court. Who owns this land? That's a court matter.
You're still not speaking to the issue I'm asking.
Sorry?
Is there any particular document that indicates that indeed it is this Minkus that is using this Lagos State government agency you're talking about? For which reason you are mentioning their name?
Good. Now, because, first of all, is that their lawyer, who I spoke with on the phone, and his number is among the numbers listed in one of these other things. I'm going to know them with you here. In one of the notices, I spoke to him, and he was with them. I was in Owerri. That was on Thursday. I was away. He said, okay, that is there. What's going to happen? He's going to tell them to stop. When I come back, I said, I'll be in the office on Monday. He said, okay, I will tell them to stop. Lawyer to Minkus. I will tell who to stop. You will tell police to stop and tell Last Blacker to stop. Johnson also is his name. You see, these things are not ending here.
What's the assurance? What if he comes and denies?
That he's no longer the lawyer.
He didn't speak with you.
Oh, good, but his number is on the thing that they posted.
But should Minkus Nigeria Limited deny him? What happens?
Well, until then. That's
the
why,
point that I'm making here.
I'm not going into certain things.
Well, exactly.
I don't want to commit. I don't want to also.
You don't want to perjure the court.
I understand, but don't perjure. I don't want to.
The point that I'm making here is you are making allegations mentioning a specific
that's the owner of the company.
Name.
No, I said she's the owner of the company. Yes.
Now you're saying that the fellow is the owner of the company, and that it is this company that is using the agency of government to pressure people to harass. That's the word. I'm just trying to be sure that everyone knows that it's not like we're in any way as an organization trying to allow any kind of slandering here. That is the point that I'm making. Do you have proof that Mrs. Oshomo, one, is the owner of Minkus, and two, is the one in league with these organizations to ensure that these things you're talking to?
Yes, I'm sure, because in the case they filed, they pleaded that themselves, that Mrs. Oshomo is the owner of the company. They pleaded it. So that one is out of the way. It's a public document. It's even here. In the papers they filed in court, not the one I filed.
Okay.
Then regarding the issue of when you file a matter in court, the person who will now be relating with people will be your lawyer, not you. So if your lawyer says this, I believe you. In fact, you said it, not your. Do you understand?
Exactly.
Just like if anything I'm saying here now concerning this, it's my client saying it.
Okay.
And me, of course, because I also own a property there.
All right. Well, we saw an image on the screen that I think we're going to have to bring on. We have just a few seconds to exit the program with some kind of plan, part of the plans that you have on.
Building plan?
Yes. This particular one, can you speak to it?
That's a buying. Look at it here. That's my own.
Okay.
That's my house. That's my own plan. Look at the approval from government.
Okay.
So what else do they want?
And that's the same kind of document everyone else who
yes, they were submitted to building control.
Okay.
And you see, some things had gone wrong in the past, even by government. My plan is on block B. Then there's block A, that's the one nearest to the high tension and the expressway. Now, thereafter, after getting this plan, we found out that because there's a document that Lagos State also approved, this, a layout approved. There is another one now, which allocates land under the high tension, thereby making my block C, which although it can only be illegal, because there's no way there will be approval.
Okay.
On the,
so this is your development plan, the development permit.
Yes.
Okay.
It's here too.
Well, you know, we can only wait and hope that the agencies of government will actually speak to these, because on the one hand, you have reached out to them, and we are hoping that the officials of government, particularly the political leaders, will do the needful. We've also reached out, so we can have a kind of balanced conversation. Unfortunately, we are yet to hear from the Lagos State Building Control Agency. In the meantime, we have to thank you very much for being here this morning. Mr. Kenneth Odidika is the one, raising this issue, literally making it, what do we call, a public affairs.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time, and wish you all the best.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much.
Again, we are calling, hoping that the Lagos State Building Control Agency will have what we'll call a right of reply to these issues raised. We're back right after now, the last leg on the show. Please stay with us.
Is so worried because Abuja is the capital city of Nigeria, the mirror through which the entire world sees this country. And if we allow and keep quiet and remain docile with the happenings, it will consume everybody. As we speak, people are deserting their communities in the rural community, migrating to the nearest urban cities. And in the whole 6 area council, there is no area council that has not been ravished and sieged by these bandits and kidnappers, killing people on their farms, in their houses, in their shops, and all what may. It's very, very unbecoming, and I want to call the attention of the Honorable Minister to this ugly trend that is going on in the FCT. The strategy we are adopting now needs to be changed because it's not working. We need to engage and empower the civilian JTF, because when it happens, what we do is reactional. We deploy security agencies, they go there, do operation, and come back. And these criminals have intelligence. The Minister of FCT should declare state of emergency and security to ensure that our community are safe. As we speak, the members of our local communities no longer go to farm. And if they cannot go to their farms, it then means the food security is under threat.
Well, Dr. Peter Olumuji joins us next. He's the Secretary, Command and Control Center for the FCTA. He's here to shed some, at least some understanding of what is being done about the concerns raised there, and also by some residents of the FCT. Good morning. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning.
So just before we get to you, just a piece of information just in. Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the appeal filed by the PDP Nasarawa governorship candidate, Mr. Ombugado, against his APC counterpart, Abdullahi Sule. So they have reserved judgment, so it's going to be determined at a later determined date. So they will fix that date. I know. They'll fix that date.
That's my, I told you smile.
Should I told us what the outcome of the next one is going to be? Then
don't worry, I'll
we'll take it serious.
Crystal ball.
Okay. Well, Dr. Olumuji, thank you for coming on this morning. So, clearly some persons are concerned about what is going on. So these are the kind of issues. Did they even pop up in the command and control center in the first place?
Definitely. We have such issues coming up. Like I can feel the agony in which Honorable Ezekiel spoke there, and that is the same thing we also have. The Minister of the Federal Capital, Barrister Nyesom Wike, is not happy with the news that we've been receiving, especially issues that borders on abduction of good-spirited residents of FCT. And in the command and control center, we've been getting feedbacks from the residents, and also the security agencies have been working day and night in ensuring that these residents are rescued alive, because it's one thing to go for the rescue operation, it's another thing to rescue them alive. And that is why I want to say clearly here that the administration is very concerned about what has been raised. You know, not only what he has just said in the press briefing yesterday, but also generally, security of FCT has been on the front burner. And I can tell you that the FCT security is being handled effectively through proper intelligence gathering. Now, I've gotten feedbacks from residents, even as at 2 a.m. this morning, I got a lot of messages coming in, and we feel the concern of the residents.
So what can you tell us about the news making the rounds about those who have been killed, for some of those who were kidnapped? Were 3 people actually killed for that kidnap?
Yes, I saw the pictures. One picture showed 4 bodies on the floor along the road. They claimed it's Buhari. I've not gone in there to verify personally, but I know that the police, the FCT Police Command, under the leadership of the FCT Police Commissioner, has also asked his tactical squad to go in there and verify it. Yes, we also received this information that one of the victims of the Zuma 1 incident, abduction incident, and one of the young lady was killed, you know, after the parents was not able to meet up with the 60 million naira ransom. Yes, it bothers us, it worries the administration, and the Honorable Minister FCT has been receiving an hourly report, situational report, on the effort of the security agencies in ensuring that these people that have been abducted, both at Zuma 1 and Sagwari Aduse, are rescued. You know, so, but I would not want to confirm those faces and tying them to a name, because I've not been there. But the general feeling is that these people have been killed, those 4 people you saw, and tying it to each of the incidences that occur is what I will not be able to do here right now. But again, I want to state clearly that the anti-kidnapping team are in the bushes since these incidences occur. And I still spoke to the OCA FCT anti-kidnapping as at this morning, and I know they are making a lot of progress. You could remember that some few days ago, the force headquarters, the PRO force headquarters, raised some issues about this operation. There's some technical things going on behind the scene that cannot just be mentioned, because once you do that, then you are giving a lead to those abductors. And again, I want to also state here, because you remember some few days ago, there are some some suspected kidnap suspects that were arrested by the FCT Police Command, operating within Kuje and Kwali, and you know, interrogation have been going on. They've given very, very useful information in aiding that these people are located. Then again, you should take note. Most of these things, with abduction, when it occurs at the border community, bordering Nasarawa, Kaduna, and Niger states. And the FCT Police Command have fortified and sent both manpower and operational assets to that environment. We need to make the residents of FCT to be able to sleep with their two eyes closed. Even though, again, we have also noticed that on the social media platform, Chinese will always want to verify information before posting it out. But realize that most of these social media platforms just share information that are not verifiable. They did not verify it. And this makes us to talk to the media practitioner to always verify information from the right source before doling it out there, because it has created apprehension in the heart of the residents of FCT. And nobody is happy with what you are seeing. Now, let me give you a practical example that I always tell people. In a game of football, no matter what the striker, the defender, the goalkeeper, the coach has done, once at the end of the match, your team cannot pick the 3 points, the winning points, then it's as if you've done nothing. Why did I bring that illustration? The security agencies are not sleeping. They are working. In fact, the level of insecurity in FCT is not as people are talking about it. As some few days ago, the Utako Police Division apprehended a couple who are into one chance syndicate. Some few days ago, they also apprehended some vandals, vandalizing government infrastructure. Now, most of the time, what we want to see is that the FCT is secured. We don't want to hear whatever the security wants to say. All we want to know is that no abduction takes place. And that's why I've given that scenario of a football match. Anything below that, the residents don't want to know.
No, but I think it's not just that the residents don't want to know. It's the manner, the brazen nature, the audacity of the people who are perpetrating these crimes. I think that's what many people find befuddling. The fact that an estate was attacked, people were abducted, ransom was demanded. When ransom was brought, when they raised what it was that they could raise, they rejected it. From what we even understand, they killed one of the people there to make their points clear that they're serious. They went back to another estate and raided it again. So people are just wondering, what sort of story is this? Is it that we are totally helpless in the face of the audacity, the brazenness that these kidnappers are showing within the Federal Capital Territory? And if this can happen within the Federal Capital Territory, then what hope is there for other states?
Good. Now, let me let you know something, is that the kidnappers are not having the field day in FCT. FCT is relatively secured and safe. If you look at the incident of the ransom pay, that's the Zuma 1 incident, the parents brought out ransom to want to pay and the kidnappers rejected it. There's always more to what you see out there. That's why I say there's some certain information I cannot divulge, because from credible intelligence being gathered presently, there's more to that kidnap incident that meets the eyes. Now they asked for 60 million. When they brought some part of it, they rejected it. And before you know, the report got to the security agency that one of the daughter has been killed, which is so sad. No government will accept such. And before you know, within a space of less than 24 hours, they increased that ransom to 100 million. So what are they trying to achieve? And like we've said, within the community, the security agencies have been able to identify over time now that you have informants within the community. Now, I talked about two suspects that were arrested, informants that bears arm for these abductors. Do you know that these two people apprehended reside in those communities? One, the first one, when they apprehended him, he led the police team to another community in the FCT. And that's where they apprehended the second. But the third one is at large. And they are working to ensuring that they track the person down. And this leads me to the aspect where we talked about knowing your neighbor. These abductors cannot come into any community without somebody, without an insider having something to do with it. The suspect, these abductors have demanded for 60 million. The parents have been able to raise a certain amount, just like what you just said. They took it to them, they said no. And before you know, they raised it to 100 million. So it shows that there is some insider, and that is what the security agencies are working on.
Okay.
You know.
I'm just also wondering, what exactly does the Command and Control Center cover? Does it also cover, apart from security, does it also cover safety? For instance, if there's a fire incident, if there's a motor accident, does it cover those areas as well?
Now, the Command and Control Center for the FCT has the various relevant FCT departments in it. You have the Development Control, you have the Abuja Environmental Protection Board, you have the Directorate of Road Traffic Services, and you have the Social Development Secretariat. Then, aside that, we also have all the relevant security agencies. You have the FCT Fire Service, you have the Nigerian Police Force FCT, you have the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense, who is into critical infrastructure and natural assets. You have the NDLEA, who deals with drugs. You have the Immigration Services, which deals with illegal immigrants within the FCT. So it's a holistic team that deals with general nuisance within the FCT. And through the FCT call center, once we get when we get information from the resident, we go into it. And also, you should also know that since you have the Nigerian police as part of the team, so automatically the general security of FCT is also part of the mandate of this Command and Control Center. So whatever we do an holistic operation. And that is why you see that for recent, because of the reported incidences of one chance within the city, we've been carrying out clearance operation in taxi ranks. In fact, there's an operation we did last Friday. One of the taxi ranks that is meant for vehicles to come in so that commuters can go in there and board safe and secure the vehicles have been taken over by illegal fuel dumps. And we had to apprehend them, those who are dealing in that. So there's a lot of things that the Command and Control Center is into. As I'm speaking to you now, they're out there ensuring that some clearance operation is being carried out. We have issues of shanties in places that are not meant to be.
So residents can call the Command and Control Center?
Yes, through the FCT call center.
What is the number?
The number is not with me here.
Don't worry, we'll get it on.
It's a very long number.
No, now I know you come to that. Now the FCT call center number is the normal 11-digit number, but the FCT administration, due to complaints from residents, this number are too long for one to memorize. They are working on getting a 3-digit number that will just be very simple.
They're still working on it. It's the federal
within the next few weeks, that number will be out. I still spoke to the director in charge of that center, and they've assured us that within the next few weeks, that number will be out. And it will make.
Yesterday, there was an accident along the Abuja Airport Road. I'm sure you must, the outbound portion of the Abuja Airport Road. And sadly, a broadcaster was killed. The woman who died in that accident, those are the visuals there. Who happened to be a broadcaster who worked at a radio station here in Abuja. She lost her life in that accident. Now, we're able to speak with the director, somebody in charge of the Directorate of Transport.
Road Traffic Services.
Yes, Road Traffic Services, VIO.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes.
And he said that they were there, is it within 20 or 25 minutes or so? It was very difficult. He said that the lady died instantly. But I'm speaking with one of the survivors in that particular accident. If you notice, there are two vehicles involved, the white one and the other one. One of the survivors in that accident said that they tried, the lady was still alive. Other, well-meaning Nigerians were trying to see how they could get her out of that accident situation. So it raises the question of response time. If right now we don't have the numbers, as a broadcaster, I do not have the numbers, emergency numbers to call within the FCT. So it raises big question about whether the responsiveness of the immediacy of government in situations like this. If there's a fire, if there's an accident, if there is a robbery, what numbers? I mean, the fact that we don't have one and we're still working on it, it is a problem.
Take notes. I said something. We have an emergency number under the FCT call center. It's an 11-digit number and it's a toll-free number.
But it is long.
11 digits. And the FCT administration have been broadcasting it on every available platform. But what I said is that we want to work in getting a 3-digit number that will also serve as part of the emergency number. Again, the FCT call center has a website that one could go into and lay complaints and the rest. You know, when you go to www.fcta.gov.ng, that is another platform we engage residents. You know, it's called a citizen engagement platform.
FCTA.gov?
Yes, fcta.gov.ng.
fcta.gov.ng.
Yes.
But I know that would not be the first thing that people will want to call in this situation.
Definitely, but that's why we have the call center number that
the call center. So how quickly are you working on within the command and control center to be able to get help to residents whenever it is that it is needed? Because this accident caused a humongous traffic situation yesterday along the airport road.
In fact, I was at the scene yesterday.
You were at the scene?
Yes, I was at the scene yesterday. In fact, before my vehicle could get, I had to even trek. Because, and that...
You didn't call the command center to do something?
No. What I'm saying is that immediately the accident occurred, they called us. Okay. We also called the Federal Road Safety Corps, we called the Directorate of Road Traffic Service, and we had to go in there. But you know, you trust Nigeria and people want to view what is happening instead of them creating a route, a thoroughfare for emergency response team to go in. Everybody wants to view what is happening. Some even were just videoing, which is not meant to be, you know. It's so unfortunate that lady lost her life yesterday. But again, the response team, we as residents of FCT, once there's an emergency, especially such, we are not meant to block the road. Because when the ambulances are coming in and there's no thoroughfare for them to pass through, it delays saving that life. But people nowadays want to video. For what? Are you meant to video or to help the victim at that material point in time? So I want to use this medium to also advise the residents of FCT that when you see such accident scenario, try and make sure you clear the road for the emergency response team that are coming in.
In the countries where this kind of thing happens, there's training. There is discipline that immediately, you know, where there's an accident, you see that, you know, citizens have been taught that, look, you make way on this side, you make way on this side, so that, you know, emergency responders can quickly, or first responders can quickly get through. That takes time. That takes a lot of training in that particular regard for people to be able to, you know, understand that. But what I'm asking right now is, how quickly are you within the command and control center while that training, I think that there needs to be special training for residents to know that this is what is expected of them. But how quickly are you working on getting emergency help wherever it is needed within the Federal Capital Territory?
The incidents of yesterday that occurred, the emergency help team were right there on time. And like I told you...
On time meaning what? How many minutes?
I was somewhere at Area 1 when I got the call. Immediately from Area 1, I proceeded there. Before getting there, I called the sector commander of the Federal Road Safety of FCT and the Directorate of Road Traffic FCT, and even the FEMA, you know, the emergency agency for FCT. And as I was putting call to them, as I was moving, they told me they are also on their way there. But on getting there, the crowd, they blocked everywhere. So I had to trek for like 15 minutes to get to the particular scene. So what I'm trying to advise the residents is that once you see an accident scene or emergency situation like that, our priority should not be to video and be the first to post on the social media. We should be able to render a helping hand. And those who are driving past that environment also need to make a thoroughfare for the ambulances to be able to pass through. Without that, there's nothing the ambulances can do, which you know perfectly. So we're educating the residents today that under any time you have such a scenario, please make way for the emergencies team to access the particular location.
Well, sadly, I mean, condolences to their families. I mean, it's been a tough one. The other day, the shocking news of Issa Guso's death came through, and then you've got this one. So really, really tough and challenging times. So clearly, the same thing too. We raise these kind of issues about how we need to conduct ourselves around accident scenes.
Indeed.
But all parts of the country, really, so that agencies can indeed get there and render help to the people, because it is response time is very key. We'll keep trying to get the authorities here, though, the police, emergency, to see what are they doing to improve their response times. And then speaking about that number, maybe we can go ahead and have it now.
I have the number now.
All right, so let's have it.
Yes, the FCT emergency call number is a toll-free number, an MTN number. The number is 080 31 23 0330. I take it again. 080 31 23 0330. Then the second one is 080 99 93 6312. 080 99 93 6312 is a toll-free number, and the website I mentioned is www.myfctgov.ng, myfcta.ng.
Okay, so one of the other concerns, just before we go, is ability to track these kidnappers when they make these calls. Is this something that the command is taking a look at? Because that's a huge area of concern for citizens.
Yes, you know, when most of these places, the kidnappers, these abductors take the victim through are mountainous areas, you know, going through the mountains that vehicles cannot easily access. So the personnel are meant to have to go on foot and going after them. Now, part of what the administration is putting in placing right now is the use of surveillance drone in tracking them. You know, you have surveillance drone that no matter the hour of the day, either the daytime or the nighttime, as it's tracking you, it moves with the sensor from your breath or your heat. And the suspect will not notice the drone, but it's there. And that will also aid the rescue mission and identifying the location this suspects have passed through. Again, the FCT administration is also working on the synergy that the G7 collaborative effort has brought. The G7 are those states that share boundaries with the FCT, Niger, Kaduna, Plateau, and Co. And now they are working on that to clear the border community of anywhere these bandits or non-people are bandits.
Well, we're out of time. We do thank you for coming on. Dr. Peter Olumuji is the Secretary, Command and Control Center for the FCTA. Let's take a look at some messages coming through now. This one is from Mr. T. He's raising concerns about a different matter, which is on CAC issues. He says, kindly look into the issues at CAC. For weeks now, many companies were made inactive on the CAC portal. While it is true that some may have defaulted on their annual returns, it is simply not true that all of the companies defaulted are the same. He says his company is an example. He said he's made annual returns consistently. So when he found the company's name on the list, he asked his lawyer why was this so. He was assured that it was done every year. When due and acknowledgements were received from CAC, one of the problems was that the portal hasn't been updated as it should. We tried to pay for a year that was indicated as unpaid, and we couldn't because the system reports that it has not been paid. We paid up to date, yet CAC hasn't done anything to change that status. He says something needs to be done because they are unable to do business as a result of this.
Well, Henry Awunono also sent a message, says Nigeria's productivity is energy dependent. Let efforts be intensified towards making cheaper energy available. Let the subsidy be reintroduced as the anti-corruption agencies have awakened from their deep slumber. The economy cannot improve and Nigerians cannot survive in this regime of high energy costs.
Well, we also got your
Alright,
message,
so
Taufik.
we've got to run at this point. So I think fcta.gov.ng, if that's the website, some say they can't open it, but they'll need to double check. We'll see. MyFCTA, okay, myfcta.gov.ng. We'll double check and see what happens. Well, that is the show today. We do thank you for coming, and we'll see you next time. I'm Chamberlain Osop. Goodbye.
Taufik, we also see your message. Thank you so much for watching and for sending your feedback. Bye-bye.
Namaya Makinde, well, you're right. Nasarawa has been held on until later. Have a good day.